Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm Claire Jones. If we haven't already met, I'm an author and small publisher committed to changing the world for the better through inclusive stories and practices. And we are jumping on today for my Authorvision Facebook Live series, where I interview the amazing and inspiring authors in my network to discuss the personal visions that have shaped our lives and careers. So if you're joining us, please like, comment, share below. Let us know that you're here. And today I'm talking to Crystal. Yay!
Hey,
So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate being here, and I'm ready to share. So all is good. All is good.
Awesome. Let's dive right on in then. Tell me about your backstory. How did you get to where you are today?
Oh man. Well, let's just take it back maybe 6 years ago when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And kind of changed my whole vision and my way of being, really focusing on emotional health and healing, which prompted me to step out of a lot of comfort zone places of doing and being, and moving into more emotional support with myself, learning how to process my grief, and just kind of stepping into the ignorance that I've been living in since a child, a young adult, which prompted me to move into writing my first book around thriving through chronic illness. And to me, that's kind of like a rebirth the past couple years. And that's kind of my backstory with my fitness background, my personal training background. I've always been into health and fitness, so being diagnosed with breast cancer was a complete shock, and I had to really hone in on how I got it. Where did it come from? So that's kind of been my journey the past 3 years, just really working on sharing that with other women that are struggling too. So
I love that you use the phrase stepping into your ignorance, because I think we often deny our ignorance. We refuse it, we ignore it, we pretend it doesn't exist.
right.
But it takes strength and also awareness to accept our ignorance.
Yeah, it's humbling too, to be honest, because I've always been a very type A control freak woman, like externally looking for my happiness on the outside and trying to control other people in my life that I love, and just realizing that I need to focus on me. It's all internal. I need to love me for who I am and continue healing and staying healthy and not carrying all their baggage, their emotional drama. So that's been huge. It's been humbling for me to do that.
Yeah. I mean, what were the big challenges that you met along the way?
I think really confronting my family, like, my brother, just every time we were in front of each other, I was always reacting to whatever he was putting out there. I've had to just address him and others and just say, hey, I hear what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, but I need to step back and process before I come back and have an answer or a response to you or for you. So that's really been a huge challenge for me, is to not instantly blurt out something that I'm going to regret or not really know what I'm saying or what I'm feeling. So that emotional processing or alchemizing of my emotions has been a huge challenge for me. Just learning to flow daily, just being present, not stressing because people don't show up to my yoga class, or they're not buying my book, or I don't have a client. It's like, I'm just learning. Those have been challenges for me, to just put myself present in that moment and not externally accept that I'm a failure, or people don't love me, or they don't want to have what I have to, they don't want to take what I have to offer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that too. Like, I don't know if this is something that I was raised to do or something that was just kind of inherent in me, but I've always been highly structured, highly systematic in the way that I go about things. And especially when you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, I think we are encouraged to like push that even further and try to control all the things, because we are kind of in control of all the things when we're an entrepreneur or a business owner. And it almost becomes a maladaptive coping mechanism at a certain point. And so I'm totally relating with you in terms of just like learning to accept flow into the structure, into the rigidity, because if it's too rigid, then fractures form, cracks form, but you kind of need that like bending of the trees, of being able to move with the wind instead of against it.
Exactly. I feel too, and I've kind of put myself in this present place of, if I share, what I do with one person, or I meet somebody out when I'm doing something else, I kind of am manifesting that nugget is going to be placed with them. Like, I think you meet people for, serendipity, like it's a purpose. Like, I was meant to meet this woman in this clothing store for whatever reason and share what I do, because maybe it'll come back around twofold, in some energetic way, because I believe, everything's energetic and everything's energy. And so, yeah, that's kind of the mindset that I've given myself. And it's really been relaxing. It's not so, it's chill.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that's kind of where I've been living my life, and it's okay. It's a good place to be.
I love that. And like, what is the guiding vision that's kept you going along the way? Like, what was that goal, that compass?
I think just being diagnosed with breast cancer. I mean, that was just a huge shock. Like, where did it come from? It doesn't run in my family. I teach fitness classes, I work out, I eat fairly healthy. So for me, that was kind of like my my reality, putting a foot down, and then working with a coach. I worked with a business coach a little bit. I lost my mom in 2020 to congestive heart failure, and just not processing grief. So just kind of like opening up through therapy. I actually went through a therapist because I've never processed the loss of my dad at a young age, and my half sister, she was young, and then my mother. So just all this loss that was never processed and never talked about, because I think my mother struggled too. It's a cycle that keeps feeding itself if you don't stop the wheel from moving and try to figure out what's going on. So you don't pass that on to, I have two adult daughters. I don't want to pass that emotional ignorance, if you will, to them. I want them to be able to talk about their emotions and process them so they don't get sick. So that's kind of probably my my reality foot down, is just going through breast cancer, and then just actually starting to talk about these things and starting to work through them and figure out why, where did this come from? How can I channel it differently? How can I nourish all my places of well-being? How can I keep moving daily? I'm not working out like I was 25 anymore. I know I can't do that, but how can I move for a 60-year-old woman? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, just learning to accept the change and the flow of life, and being able to show that to others, especially my daughters. That you can live in that place of health and healing, regardless if you are sick, if you have an illness, or if you're surviving like me or thriving. So
yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like a quest for knowledge.
Yeah.
For the purpose of impact.
Yeah. I like that.
Like, you're curious, you're looking for those answers, you're looking for those reasons, you're looking for those connecting threads, but what you want to do with that knowledge is positively impact the world around you and make sure like that both your life and the life of others is impacted positively.
Yes, for sure. Yes, you summed it up. That's exactly my intention, or my wish, is to just continue to stay healthy and continue healing and
Mm,
learning. I love to learn, and I love to share what I learn with others,
mhm.
especially women that are, thriving,
Yeah. Yeah.
thriving despite a chronic illness, or are in that place that need that guidance.
Mm,
That's been the struggle is, okay, I have the support, but how do I get them to come and sit at the table with me and have that conversation?
mm,
So that's been my struggle.
mm.
So that's when I have to just like sit back and chill and go, okay, when the time's right, it'll happen, instead
Yeah.
of worrying about it all the time.
Yeah. The teacher arrives when the student is ready, right?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Definitely.
I mean, this is a perfect segue too into the next question of like, what lessons did you learn along the way? What were these lessons? What were these knowledge quests that you found?
Oh my gosh. Well, for me, like, I'm just going to go through my 3 pillars of healing. So nourishing, obviously I was physically nourishing myself
Mm,
externally, but I
mhm,
wasn't nourishing myself internally.
mm,
So, learning how to obviously nourish those emotions. We've been talking about that. And my mental, focusing more on deep breathing, meditation, not reacting
mm,
externally, like, taking time to think about it and ponder and pause with it before coming back with an action, a
mm,
positive action.
mm,
Um, Again, continuing to move, where I'm at in my life with my body, my age, going through menopause and just all the changes that happen with your body anyway as you get older and age. So learning to accept those and be happy with who I am in my physical shell of
mm,
a body. And then emotional for me, again, learning how to, um, you know, um, attach a name to the emotion, feel it. How
mm,
can I change it if I need to? How can I challenge it? So that's been my big learning lesson, is probably my emotional
mm.
transformation with
Yeah.
me.
Because
So,
emotions are energy too, at the end of the
oh,
day.
totally. Yeah, for sure. I feel that there's just, I love crystals. I love how crystals they tie into my book, and how they're energetically healing. I mean, they're not going to replace a doctor's, you know, help in any way, but everything's energy.
Yeah.
Your body, your chakras. I mean, just everything is energy. And a lot of people don't know that, or they just don't want to, they're not educated in that way. And that's
Mm,
okay, you
mm,
know. Um, so yeah, just being on a deeper holistic path to healing
mhm.
for me.
I mean, I can so relate to a lot of what you're talking about. Like, I actually came to this through neuroscience because of all of the neuroscientific research that's come out in the last few decades around how much emotions affect us, how much our thinking patterns affect us, how much like just those, because the emotional reactions create the physical reactions, right?
Right.
Hormonal, like adrenal, and like all of those processes within the body. And like when I learned that the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that is the fear center of our brain, it's the brain that wants to protect us at all costs, it
Mhm.
scans the environment for threats every 8 seconds.
Really? That's interesting. I
Mhm.
didn't know that.
And
Wow.
if you don't manage that process, it just runs off on its own, right?
Hmm.
And it's about this like self-management, self-awareness, self-knowledge that you're talking about that I think is crucial to that
Yeah,
process.
agree. Yeah. I was just talking to my chiropractor this morning about um how like fifth and sixth graders will come in to get adjusted, and he's
Mm,
like, they're already on medication
mm,
for so many things,
yeah,
and it's very sad that, people think a pill is just going to fix everything.
yeah,
It's not. You have to go deeper
yeah,
and really work on self, and again, stopping these cycles that
yeah.
our parents were raised with.
I mean, again, we're not taught it, you know,
No.
like
Oh
even
no.
this concept of pausing before responding, I
Hmm.
think is an inherently Eastern concept too. Like I've also read that in Eastern cultures, it is considered to be rude if you respond immediately. to something.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know
You're
that.
supposed to like pause, think, then respond to something as like
Okay.
a social nicety in some Eastern cultures. And
Yeah.
I think it's a uniquely Western cultural norm for us to be like, we need to respond immediately. We need to do something. Like it's that knee-jerk reaction that I think gets us into so much trouble sometimes.
Agreed. Yes. Yes. Because a lot of times you say something that you regret and then you can't take it back, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Unfortunately. So,
Well, we've talked a little bit about this, but what everyday tools or practices did you use to support yourself throughout this journey?
um, well, probably again, I went vegan almost 3 years ago. So I
Mm,
changed my eating, for me, and I feel 100% better. I mean,
mm,
I was eating fairly well anyway, but so food for me, change that up. I do that every day. And then journaling, EFT tapping is something that I practice. Yoga, stretching, working out. I love to do cardio and lift weights and things like that. And deep breathing,
mm.
meditation. I think I mentioned that. And again, like I just said, being present every day, like not stressing about what tomorrow's going to bring or what I did yesterday, you
Mm-hmm.
know. For example, I've been teaching like an impromptu yoga class up at the lake, like just one day a week. And 5 or 6 women wanted to do this. And I've tried to teach fitness since I've moved
Mm-hmm.
here to North Dakota for the past 14 years, on and off. I mean, people want to do it. They're all hyped up. Let's do it. Let's go. They do it for 2 months and then they quit. So
Mm,
this is what I've been experiencing with the whole fitness thing.
mm,
That's why 2 or 3 years ago, through my coach, I got on Facebook Live and I said, I have decided not to teach anymore. And that was the hardest thing for me because it was like my comfort zone place to be.
mm.
So anyway, this conversation came up. Okay, yeah, sure, let's do a yoga class because then I'll do it because I struggle honestly doing it on my own. If I'm teaching somebody or in a group, I'm more apt to do it. Um, and so the old Crystal would have been pissed off and upset because for the last 3 weeks nobody's came. Like
Mm,
I reach out every Wednesday and say, hey, yoga tonight, who's in?
mm,
You know, and there's stuff going on. I get it. Life happens. Things are happening. But the old Crystal, I thought about this morning. I would have been angry and pissed off that nobody was coming. It's like, okay, what's going on? Is it me?
yeah.
You know, you guys just telling me that you've got a meeting tonight or this is happening or that's happening. So
Absolutely.
for me, that was a huge revelation that I am I'm aware and I'm looking at it in a different way,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm just, yeah. And then I said, okay, I'll reach out next week. So for me, that's huge because the old
Yeah.
Crystal would have been like angry, upset, you know, self-blame,
Totally.
you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I give
Absolutely.
myself a pat on the back for that because and then my friends have told me too that they've noticed a change in me in the last
Mm,
2 or 3 years. So when you hear that externally from people that are close to you, then I am radiating this new persona
mm.
about my ease and my flow with my life too. So
Yeah.
that's always comforting to hear.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been thinking about it lately in terms of like completing karmic cycles, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like we have these lessons that it takes a while to learn them sometimes, especially like when you're talking about this, like these yoga events and like nobody coming. I was recently faced with a event where I was invited to this event and they used to throw them before the pandemic, and like pre-pandemic, they routinely brought in like 500 people per event. But post-pandemic, like the first one that they threw recently only brought in 100 people instead of
Yeah.
500. And the event hosts were absolutely panicking. Like they thought it was the worst thing to ever happen to them.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there in the audience just being like, oh man, like I felt for them so hard because I was like, to me, this is a success. Like you have 100 people here. It's like a
Yeah.
success, right? Like
Yeah.
I've thrown workshops where one person showed up.
I hear you. I know.
And so like I think part of these journeys that we're talking about a lot lately, especially in these podcasts, is also the journey with like being okay with rejection, being okay with the ebb as well as the flow.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed. Like we're rocks in the stream, and we flow around that stable rock, that permanent thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are going through that right now with like the summer sales thing, because sales do tend to go down for a lot of businesses in the summertime because everyone's on vacation.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people in the audience right now who are struggling with this mindset that we're talking about right here, is being okay with the ebb and the flow of the yearly cycles and the cycles of people. And like, especially when we're dealing with other humans in our work, like humans are messy, we're imperfect. Like you said, shit happens, things happens in our lives that like interrupt our plans all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're coordinating any group of individuals, like you run into that. It's inevitable.
Agreed. Yeah. It's just the way it is. It's just part of our day, part of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me 50 some years to realize that.
Right.
But that's okay. We're always learning. We're constantly learning and evolving. And that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah.
If you're willing to accept that. A lot of people have those barriers up. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to change, and you run into those types of people too. And that's sad, because you see it, but they don't see it because they're in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like falling down into the abyss of whatever's going on. And
yeah. Which brings us back to the beginning of this episode of lean into your ignorance.
Yeah, definitely. Coming back around full circle for sure.
Yeah. Well, as we head into the wrap up, anything you want to add before we finish things off?
Has it been 30 minutes already?
Yeah.
It flies when you're having fun.
I know.
Well, no, I want to say to the audience that life is too short. I mean, you need to live each day to the fullest and be present and just be with you, learn how to self-love. That's a huge component. Self-love, self-care, take time for you, and just live your life every day in every moment, and be aware of the choices that are out there to help you stay healthy and heal, on a holistically natural level, if possible. I know some people have to take medication for whatever reason, but then you have the other piece of it where you can, move every day and you can nourish your well-being, your spiritual, all those places of well-being, and and just deal internally with your emotions too.
I love that. Are there any like really short tips that you have for people for being in the moment? That's such a big term, like make it a little more practical for people.
Probably deep breathing, like just taking a moment to sit and just pause and just do that box cycle breathing. I don't know if you've heard of that. So you got 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. Just taking that moment to sit and be with yourself and just deep breathe and maybe focus on all 5 senses.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Like, what do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? Depending on what's going on, just focusing on the senses and just breathing and just being present in that moment.
Yeah. It's definitely that body embodiment thing that I think is super important. Like I've also heard that if you like just rub your fingers together, you automatically get put into the present moment because you have that physical sensation going on. You're just with
the touch, with the touch. Yeah. I've never heard that one. Thank you. I'm gonna use that one.
Yeah, I mean, it goes along with the senses thing. It's like, okay, what are 3 things that I see right now? What are 3 things that I smell right now? What are 3 things that I feel right now or taste right now? And it's just about like getting ourselves back into our body, because I think we spend so much time in our heads on a daily basis that we just to like sink into our actual bodies and be like, all right, what's going on down here?
Right. Well, and then again, too, a lot of education that I have brought forth to me is diving into my feminine again. We live in a masculine place because we were put there, so many years ago. So that was something I learned through my coaching is developing my feminine side, having fun,
Yeah,
loving me.
absolutely.
So you need that balance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Have fun. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's where I want to end it for today. Have fun.
Okay. Have fun. I like it. Let's do it.
Because life is too short, like you said earlier. Like, just lean into it, have fun, be fully aware, and good things will happen.
Agreed. I like it.
Well, these are always therapy sessions a little bit too.
Well, that's okay, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. No, I always say, like, when people say, like, what's the one piece of advice you have for people who are thinking about going into business or anything like that? And I'm like, go to therapy.
right. Make sure it's what you really want to do before you even dive into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least deal with your own stuff so that you are aware of it before it affects an entire business.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's a really good tip, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, really know who you are and what your direction is and what you want to share
Yeah.
before you step out there and do that.
Yeah. Because you
Love
are
it.
affecting whole ecosystems once you start that.
Agreed.
All right. Well, this is powerful stuff that we're talking about here. And audience, we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and insights and stories with us as well. We'd love to know how visions like these, goals like these have impacted you in your own lives. So special thanks to Crystal for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Claire, for having me. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah, thank you. Please comment, like, subscribe below. Check out linktr.ee/clairjoyance for all of my links. And then where can folks find out more about you?
Oh, let's see. I have a website, www.crystalgrenier.com. You'll probably drop that in the notes.
Yes.
And then Facebook, Reclaim, the number 2 to restore. And I'm on Insta, same, Reclaim to Restore.
Awesome. And I'll make sure those links are available in the description.
Yes,
Comments,
yes. And on the website, they can shoot me an email and then I'll have their email and it's all good. We can go from there.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, until next time, please remember that you all have extraordinary stories to share, and I'm rooting for you as you use them to change the world for the better. Take care, everyone.